How to stitch the diamond panel. Hoop up 1 to 2 layers of tearaway stabilizer. Load your design to your machine. Stitch the first color stop onto the stabilizer. I'm using white thread throughout this design. Spray the stabilizer with temporary adhesive spray. I use Madeira MSA 1100. Cut a piece of batting and place it over your design. Stitch the next color. This is the batting tack down. The batting tack down has been stitched. With a sharp pair of scissors, cut away the extra batting. When the batting has been cut, stitch the next color. The layout guide has been stitched. This will show you where to place your fabric strips. Stitch the next color. The center part of the design has been stitched. This is a placement line where you are going to add a piece of fabric. Take your fabric and measure it against the placement line. You want to have a ½ inch of fabric around the placement line. Cut your fabric. Give the design a light spray of temporary adhesive and place your fabric right side facing up. Stitch the next color. The tack down has been stitched. Using a pencil or a pen, mark a ½ inch around the tack down stitching. Trim back the fabric. Stitch the next color. The placement line has been stitched along this side. Give the design a light spray of temporary adhesive. Use temporary adhesive throughout the design to hold fabrics in place. I have pre-cut all my fabric strips. Refer to the fabric measurements PDF for these sizes. Take a strip of fabric and place it on this edge of the design. You want to keep a ½ inch of fabric to the outside of the placement line. When placing your fabrics, right sides of fabric must always face each other. The process is going to be to place the fabric, stitch the tack down and flip the fabric over. To check that your fabric is going to cover the next section, this section here, you can test flip the fabric. The fabric must have a ½ inch over that line. You also want to have a ½ inch of fabric on this side and on this side. When you're happy with your fabric placement, you can stitch the next color. The tack down stitch has now been stitched. Flip the fabric over and hand press in place. Take your ruler and pen and measure the ½ inch seam allowance. Trim the fabric. Measure along the long edge a ½ inch seam allowance and trim. Stitch the next color. The placement line has been stitched. Add some temporary adhesive spray glue. Add your fabric, right sides facing each other. Do a test flip to check the fabric placement. Stitch the next color. The tacked-on stitch has been done. Flip the fabric over. Mark the 1/4 inch seams and trim the fabric. Continue stitching out the design and adding fabrics in this manner. Leave the last round unstitched. The 3 rounds of the diamond panel are now done. Stitch the next placement line which will come along here. The placement line has been stitched. Add some temporary adhesive spray. Add the next piece of fabric. Do a test flip to check your fabric placement. Stitch the next color. The tack down has been stitched. Flip the fabric over. Mark the 1/4 inch seams. Trim back the fabric. For this section of the design, I am not going to trim back the fabric along this edge. This is going to go into the seam allowance when the panels are sewn together. Stitch out the rest of the design. That is all the pieces placed. Stitch out the last color. The machine will stitch right around the entire design. It is there to hold the last round of fabric in place. It is also the guideline that will be used when sewing the panels together. And that is my diamond panel done. Go ahead and remove the stabilizer. You will need 8 of these panels for this quilt.